Hello there, beautiful friends. Welcome back to the Sara Show. My name is Dr. Sara Otung, and this podcast is all about how to build the career of your dreams and how I went from being a medical doctor in the NHS to being a working actress. I'm so glad that you are here with me for this new episode, because today we're going to be talking about a topic that honestly I love to chat about because I find it so empowering. It's all about taking the leap. How do you get to the point where you actually make the decision to take the leap and leave your full-time job or part-time job or your career or whatever it is in your life right now that you're not really loving, that isn't really for you, in pursuit of something that is for you, something that you do love? I think this is something that I definitely went through in my own journey and in my own story. In fact, to be honest, I really believe it's something that we have to do every day. The truth is that when you are building a life that you love, there are always choices, right? You wake up each day, there's always the opportunity to play it safe, to do the conventional thing. So I think it's relevant for you wherever you are in the journey. If you already took the leap and you are currently building the business of your dreams or applying for roles as an actress, this is still a really important topic. So I recommend that you stick with it, and hopefully I'll be able to share something that will help you to feel empowered, motivated, and inspired along your amazing, beautiful journey of life. Now, if you don't know about my story, I was working full-time in the NHS before I decided to become an actress. At the age of 28, I was when I made that decision. Now, I will share more about my own personal story and how things went down for me, because I find stories to be so powerful and so helpful. You know, you want something real, right? You don't want just a load of theories. I was literally getting excited writing out the plan for this podcast to the point where I wasn't actually supposed to film it right now. I thought I'd film it on another day, but I was like, no, I need to get this out. I need to say it out loud while it's in my head. When it comes to the decision of whether or not you want to fully go for it, there's loads to consider. And what I find is what most of us do, right, is we will think about it for a while, a long while. In fact, a lot of us will spend years, if not our whole lives, thinking about it. When I first wanted to be an actor, I went through a few stages. What happened was I wanted to be an actor when I was a child, and then I really wanted to be an actor again just after the pandemonium or the pandemic. Just after the pandemic, I again had this really strong urge to go into acting and become an actor. Now, this is as someone who had stepped so far away from that world. I didn't really know how it worked at all. And at the time, I was vlogging bits of my life as a doctor, and there was this one moment, one clip from one of my vlogs where I'm sat in the car and I'm talking to the vlog and I'm saying, guys, can I be honest with you? Because obviously when you're vlogging, you want to be honest and real, but sometimes there are thoughts in your head that you're like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that out loud, let alone put it on the internet for everyone to see. But I was sat there like, guys, can I be honest with you? I really want to be an actor. Is that crazy? Can I do that? Can I go to acting school? And in the clip, I cry a lot anyway, but I literally start crying, but not from sadness, but from just embarrassment that I've just said it out loud. I'm like, does that sound crazy? Do you think I'm weird? I'm anticipating people judging me for having this urge to want to be an actor. I'm anticipating people not understanding why on earth I want to make that decision. In the video, it basically shows me weighing up, what if I go and I try and I fail and I don't become an actor? Or what if I stay in Cardiff and I become a GP? What happens then? How do I know what to do? What I wanted is what most of us want, which is the perfect decision. We want to be able to see the alternate reality and be able to make the decisions that lead us to each eventuality. We want to be able to preempt the future before we take any risk. We really want to know what the perfect outcome would be so that we can make the decision, right? We don't want to take a leap without the certainty of the ground beneath our feet. We almost don't want to leap at all. We just want to walk with certainty that this is exactly what we should be doing. But the truth is, we're not fortune tellers. It's really difficult to know, right? It would be really, really nice to be able to feel absolutely 100% certain about the steps that we're going to take. And so what we do is, subconsciously, we don't actually talk ourselves through this, but what a lot of us end up doing is we tell ourselves that we need to be certain before we make a choice. Now, of course, there is no way to be certain. There's no way to be certain about what's going to happen in 20, 30 years. There's no way. Different things can happen in life. We don't have control over all of these outside factors. And so because we're not certain, we tell ourselves we need to gather more information, or we need to read more before we write a book, or we do all these things, right, in a way of preventing ourselves from making a decision. But the sad irony is that that is a decision. This false refusal to make a decision, this kind of self-soothing thing that we do where we're like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about writing a play, I'm thinking about applying for a new job, I'm thinking about it, makes us feel good, right? Because we've not taken any steps. And so we think in our heads that we've avoided the risk of making the wrong step. And, we're being wise, we're gathering all of the information. And so we spend hours, days, weeks, months, thinking, self-soothing, making ourselves feel like we're getting closer, right? We're getting closer to being sure. And we don't take any action because we haven't made an official decision. So we continue doing what we were doing and we don't take any action. And the sad thing is that you're always taking an action. There's no way in life not to take a risk. You're always doing something. But because we haven't done something new, we assume that we have received less harm, right? We end up absolutely overestimating the cost of action and completely underestimating the emotionally bankrupting, devastating cost of inaction. Not making a decision is one of the most costly, biggest risks that you can take in your life. It is huge, and it is the most frustrating thing to watch myself do, to watch a loved one do, to watch someone do this dance for 20 years of whether or not I should maybe do this or maybe do that. It's kind of like if you're waiting for a bus, right? You're at this bus stop and you're not sure whether or not to get on the bus. And so the first bus comes on, you think, oh, well, I'm not completely sure that I should get on this bus and go to this destination, because what if I don't have fun at this destination? I know that it's safe and dry at this bus stop. So you let that bus pass you by and you carry on thinking. You let the next bus pass you by, the next one and the next one. And before you know it, you've been sat at a bus stop all day. And so in this thing where you were like, oh, I don't know whether to go home or to get on the bus, your inaction has meant that you have spent the whole day sat at a bus stop. And that means you've missed out on the beach trip, and you've also missed out on being at home in bed. And that is what we tend to do, but like with our lives and with our dreams, is that we'll be like, oh, I'm not sure whether I should apply for acting school. And so we don't apply, or I'm not sure whether this is the perfect job for me, and I'm not sure whether I'll get the job and whether I'm underqualified. And so we think, I'll think about it more, I'll do more research. But the reality is we end up staying in the job. Because you haven't changed job, you assume that you haven't risked ruining your career, but actually staying in the same job that you hate. And that's the irony of it, right? We're so desperate for certainty that something is going to work out, yet we're ignoring the certainty that we do have. Like I was there sat in my car thinking, oh, but what if acting doesn't work? And what if I don't enjoy it as much as I think I will? And what if? Meanwhile, I knew that full-time medicine wasn't for me. I knew that. So we already often very much have a certainty. You already know that you can't stand your job, but you're not going to apply for a new job in case you can't stand that job. So in order to avoid the risk, it's crazy when you say it out loud, right? In order to avoid the risk of being in a job that I hate, I'm going to stay in a job that I hate. Make it make sense. That makes no sense. Our common fear is that we overestimate the cost of action without realizing how expensive inaction can be. Inaction can cost you knowledge, so learning something new. Inaction can cost you confidence, the confidence you would have built by making a decision for yourself and stepping out into the unknown. Inaction can cost you love. Not going up to that person and saying hi, not smiling at that stranger, that could cost you a friendship. Inaction is so expensive. And so when we're on this thing of, oh my gosh, don't I, that is so costly. So just know that when you're trying to avoid taking a leap, you're still taking a leap, right? We sit there and we're like, do I take the leap of going for my dream job? Sitting there deciding is taking a leap. Staying in your job is taking a leap. You are simply leaping into 30 years of a job that you hate. You're taking a leap anyway. There is no it's a bit morbid. So if you don't love morbid stuff, maybe skip the next 30 seconds. But it's that saying of you don't make it out of life alive. Where are we trying to get to safely? We want to live a good life, but this hyper caution, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying throw everything to the wind and be reckless, but I am saying that there's no way of living a risk-free life. So if you choose to stay in a career that you really don't like, what you're doing is choosing the devil that you know. You know, people say, better the devil you know. And it's like, is it? Who even said that other thing was the devil? Like, who said that thing was the devil? You literally, you know you're in hell, so you stay there instead of going to that thing that looks like heaven. But you don't want to risk it not being heaven and it actually being hell. So as we talk about how we decide to take the leap and go for it, I think it's really important to know that some leaps are made sitting down. Some leaps are made by not getting around to applying for that new job. Some leaps are made by taking the safe route. That is sometimes a massive leap. There is no real safe route. There is just the life that you want to build and the life that you can work towards, and whether or not you are going to make choices that honour that. It might be worth honouring who you are and your desires a little bit more instead of showering them with fear. Now, the truth is, there is actually nothing wrong with sitting, right? If I'm at that bus stop and I see the first bus come and go and I make a decision to get up and go home, there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually really beautiful. I think that there is something really wonderful about making a decision that you believe in and standing up for yourself, standing on your desires and choosing them and honouring them. I think that that is one of the most empowering things that we can do in so many different situations, whether it's in a job, a friendship, a career choice, whatever it is. The important thing is that you actually make a decision, because I think that we can start to annoy ourselves. I know that that's what I do. When I get to the point where I'm like, oh, do I do this? Don't I do that? Do I do this? Don't I do that? We know that we are self-soothing and lying to ourselves by not making a decision either way. And it can lead to us feeling really stuck. You suddenly just feel incredibly stuck. And so if you really don't want to take this leap, there is absolutely nothing wrong with saying no. You're allowed to sit there and say, do you know what? No, I don't want that. I don't want to go for the dancing career. I don't want to go for the acting career. I don't want to go for this. I would rather get a paycheck every month regularly. I'm happy with that. I can live a full and content life in my 9-to-5 job. That is a beautiful thing. So you've chosen not to take the leap into being a dancer. Instead, you're taking the leap, because it is still a leap. Everything is still a leap. Instead, you're taking the leap of the job that you can stay in, because, you know, even jobs, people get let go every day. So we're not going to pretend that there is a safe option. Like, life is dangerous, but we're out here living it anyway, okay? Don't worry, we're in it together and we can do it. I'm not just talking about financial risk. I'm talking about like life satisfaction, rather than just how much money you make. Because for me, probably a really good thing that I should have said earlier, so that you can know my context. For me, it's not just about how much money you make, you guys. Life is not just about how much money you make. When I'm talking about taking a leap and taking a risk, I'm not just talking about finances. When I say taking a leap and risking things, we're talking about the risk of the quality of your life. Now, the quality of your life can be seen as being kind of a mixture of things, right? Your relationships, your love, your fulfillment, your peace, your career, how you feel you contribute to others in this world, as well as the money and power that you have to exert your freedoms through that money. And I think for me, a really good realization of that was when I first became a doctor. So my first paycheck as a full-time doctor was the biggest paycheck I had ever gotten in my life. I'd been working since I was about 14, 15. I'd always had little side hustles and odd jobs and whatnot. I worked throughout my medical exams. Sometimes I would do like 50-hour weeks. I had part-time jobs. Your girl was out in those streets. However, the jobs that I did before medicine, I think the highest I ever got paid was £13 an hour. Oh no, it was £12 an hour. And I absolutely loved it. It was as a carer. I thought I was absolutely raking in the money. It was so much better paid than my job at Selly Sausage Cafe for, I think it was like £5 or something an hour. Either way, when I got my paycheck for my first work I did as a new baby junior doctor, and I think it was like £2,000, because it was it was more than a month's worth of pay. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so rich. But you guys, it took about 3 months for me to realize that extra money versus the time it cost me and the emotional cost that I went through in those first few months of being a doctor, I never felt poorer. The joy that I had in life when I was a medical student and doing all these other activities and seeing my friends and living with friends and all of those things, I couldn't get that back with the new money that I had earned. So when we talk about taking a leap or a risk in your life, I'm not just talking about financial risk. I'm talking about the quality of your life. And I think that that is a really important thing. Okay, so then that brings me back to the fact that there is nothing wrong with not going for the dancing career. You can stick with your 9 to 5. There is nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is, don't trick yourself into thinking you're doing this middle dance for 10 years. This thing of like, oh, well, I've not really decided yet, or I'm still weighing up my options. Just choose one. Choose so that you can enjoy it. Because I think something happens when you actually make the decision to go for it. Whether that is, I'm going to go for this 9 to 5. I'm going to be content. I'm going to build a life outside of work. I'm going to build a life within work. I'm going to make friends with my colleagues so that I can enjoy my day to day. Or whether it is that, yeah, I'm going to go for the dancing. I'm going to save up. I'm going to cut back here. I'm going to apply to this dancing school or this, I don't know why I use dancing. I've very limited experience of dancing. I don't know why I use that. Let me go back to acting, what I know. I'm going to apply to this acting school. I'm going to get this agent. I'm going to do these auditions. I'm going to pay for these courses, all of this. There is so much power when we finally make that decision to just go for it. There is so much power. Like, for example, this podcast, you guys, you can probably tell in many ways that, well, or maybe not, let me not down talk myself, but for me, I'm very much learning to podcast. I'm learning to podcast, but I've made the decision to answer people's questions that they've left on that video that went viral. If you know my story and how I ended up being a podcaster, I had a video go viral and I had a load of questions, and there was no way that I could tell people about how I went from being a doctor to being an actress just by replying to comments. I was like, whoa, this is a way, way bigger conversation. The best way to do this would be in podcast form, I believe. And so here I am podcasting. And the difference between me podcasting and me not podcasting is that I made the decision to do it. And that brings me to one of my favorite sayings that I heard growing up. It changed my life. Let's go back to, I believe it was probably about 2001, right? So around this time, I was 8-year-old baby Sara, and I would go to church on a Sunday with my family. Went to church every week, and you'd have preachers come. There was this one preacher, I cannot remember his name. I can't remember anything about him apart from that he was a white man with white hair. That is the only kind of visual image that I have of him. And I don't even know what his sermon was on. I honestly I don't have a clue what the main thing of the preach was. But he said this quote that I have quoted for the rest of my life. And I'm so sorry to this man that I can't put his name to the quote. Everyone I tell this quote, they think it's not very good. They think, oh, I was really expecting more. Whereas for me, this was foundational. This moment as I was sat in church and I hear this preacher say these words, it was like the light had been switched on. And what he said was, the difference between people who do something, and he had a very thick Welsh accent, so let me give it to you in the thick Welsh accent. Just imagine 8-year-old Sara sat in the congregation and he's preaching at the front and he says, the difference between people who do something and people who don't do something is that the people who do something. My mind was blown. The difference between the people who do something and the people who don't do something is the people who do something. The difference between the Sara who doesn't have a podcast and the Sara who does is the Sara who does have a podcast went online and started a podcast. The difference between the Sara who became a GP and the Sara who became an actress at the National Theatre was the Sara who became an actress at the National Theatre decided to write her email withdrawing from full-time medicine. The difference between, I'm going to get emotional. We can sit there pontificating about whether something will or won't work, will or won't work, will or won't work. These are just thoughts. It's just chat. We love to chat. And I say that as someone with a podcast, you guys. I love to chat. Of course I do. It's so much safer. It's so much safer to tell someone about the book that you might write. It's so much easier as well. Like, you know, when people say easier said than done. Yeah, literally everything. But it doesn't count unless you take an action. So when I'm talking about deciding, I don't mean that you like in your head say, oh yeah, I'm an actor in my head, or I'm a this, or whatever it is that you wanted to go for. No, I'm talking about you actually take an action. A decision is not about what you say, it's about what you do. Actions speak louder than words. So someone can say that they love you, but if they treat you like rubbish, that love doesn't exist because we need action. We need to see things in action. So I can talk about how I'm an actor, but if I'm not literally acting, I'm not an actor. I'm just chatting about it. The difference between becoming a nurse and not becoming a nurse is you have to actually take the action and go and study nursing and apply for jobs. Chat is so frustrating because it feels good. It feels good to talk about, well, I might do this, I may do this, I'm weighing up my options, I'm doing this. But oh my goodness, meanwhile, your life is passing you by. And I'm saying that to me as well. And I know this sounds really harsh. It sounds really harsh because the truth is you don't have to do ish. You don't have to do anything. Who am I to tell you what to do with your life? Guys, I'm genuinely still figuring it out. You should have seen the pasta that I made for lunch today. It was so questionable. It was so questionable. So if you're sat here like, don't put me on any pedestal, I'm just trying to encourage you that, or remind you from the privileges that I've had of working as a doctor, is that the most precious thing we have is our time. Don't waste your time chatting. Chatting. Okay, chat is fun, it makes you feel good, but at some point you've got to make a decision. And a decision is followed by action. Otherwise, it's not a decision. So maybe your decision is, I'm going to stick with my current job and career and I'm going to take a leap into the current job that I have. Take that leap. Give it your best. Make it amazing. Stop. I encourage you, because I don't want to tell you what to do, but I encourage you to see how it feels if you don't complain about your job for the next month. But if you're like, that's not what I want, then cool, that's absolutely fine. Go for it. Apply for a new job. Apply to learn a new skill. The difference between the skilled pianist and the non-skilled pianist is the skilled pianist actually practiced. The difference between the person who learns French and the one who stays monolingual, me, oh God forbid, sacre bleu. Rydw i'n siarad Cymraeg, thus I speak Welsh and Welsh, but it's low-key becoming the only Welsh sentence I can say. But the difference between me and someone who actually learns another language as an adult is the person who learnt it did the work. You have to take action and do it. It is so much worse. I'm like stumbling over my words now because I'm getting quite excited about it. But it is so much worse to make no decision than to make the wrong one. And some of you will hear that and be like, no, I'd rather make no decision. There's no such thing as no decision. That's the thing. There's no such thing as no decision. And the reason why it's then worse to make no decision than a decision is because in the no decision section, you're delusional. I'm sorry, I've said it. If you think that you haven't made a decision, you have. You actually have. So when we convince ourselves that, I just haven't decided yet, what we're doing, the reason it's worse than if we decided and got it wrong is because when you decide and you fail and you get it wrong, at least you learn something. But if you have deluded yourself into thinking that you've not made a decision yet, you learn nothing. You've literally learned nothing. All you've done is talk about, I would apply for that job, but, and you've actually learned nothing. You've not learned that you wouldn't get the job because you never applied anyway. You've not learned that you would fail as an actor because you never tried anyway. So you've learned nothing. So do you see what I mean? I know that to some people that's going to be really harsh, and I am in no position to tell you what to do with your life, but I can encourage you to take action, because at least then you learn. Like people would say like, but what if I don't enjoy acting? Or what if I don't love this? All of these what ifs, you can go and answer them right now by doing it. You can literally have the answers to your questions, but I'm not going to, no one's going to grab a magic ball, or they might take your money, grab a magic ball and say, this is what will happen. But the only way you can know is if you actually go for it. Hopefully, I've convinced you that you're taking a leap either way, you're making a decision either way. So we're going to skip out this middle ground of I'm still deciding. But in terms of which way to go, now that you know that there are actually only two options, that you're making a decision either way. I heard a saying from Obama that that really changed my life. And I can't remember exactly the context, but he was saying that you're not going to be 100% sure all of the time, that sometimes you're 90% sure, sometimes you're only 51% sure that option A is better than option B. So you choose option A. Sometimes we want like a bolt of lightning to come from the sky and tell us this, thou shalt become an actress. Yeah, it's funny as well, because for certain decisions, we're happy to make the decision without a bolt of lightning, like what to have for breakfast. Do I get the tube or the bus to work? You're happy enough to make that decision of tube or bus based on whether you'd rather get the tube or whether you'd rather get the bus. You don't wait for a bolt of lightning to tell you to take the bus or to take the tube. You just use the wisdom that he's given you to make that decision. But how do you know that the love of your life wasn't on the tube and you took the bus? No, there are certain things that we just make decisions for, right? So I think it's quite interesting to see what we build up as this huge decision, and we need the bolt of lightning, or we need to be 90% sure. when I think sometimes option A, being 51% sure, you being 51% sure with the knowledge that you have that option A was better, go for it. Obama said, but I found that so freeing because I was constantly wanting to get to 95%. I need 95% before I make a decision. I need to know that this is the best thing that I can do and that it's all going to work out. But you don't. You actually don't. You can make a decision with being 51% sure. So the process that he explained was that you gather all the information that you can, right, in the time frame that you have. You ask for advice, you weigh it up, you consider all the factors that need to be considered, and you make the best decision that you can. And that works for me as well in terms of when I think about my regrets, because I don't want to say I have no regrets, #no regrets, but I find it quite difficult to regret decisions that I've made in life. There are decisions that I would make a different decision now than I did back then, knowing what I know now. But when I look back, for most things, I'm like, I made the best decision that I knew how to with the information that I had at the time. And I think that that's what we need to remember, that you just need to make the best decision that you know how to with the information that you have right now. So how things ended up working out for me and how I came to the decision that I was going to become an actress was that I procrastinated and I pontificated for quite a while. I was viewing flats to rent in Cardiff. I was thinking about this, I was thinking about that, until the place that I was living in, my then landlord, after the pandemonium, he was going to sell the flat. So I had to move, right? And so that decision was made for me. I had to move. And so now I was thinking, do I move to London and become an actor, or do I stay here? And so I then ended up deciding to do something in between, which was to get a job in the south of England as a doctor. So I applied through the long application within the NHS, and I applied for a job that I thought I would like. And I still was thinking about acting, but I didn't take it too seriously, you know. I'd look at the website or I'd look at little adverts here and there, but I didn't actually do anything more than that. I was just thinking. Meanwhile, I was doing the automatic action, which for me was to get the next job within medicine. That was the path that was honestly, weirdly, the path of least resistance, because there was the least change. You know, we say medicine's so hard, but actually when you're in medicine, it can be emotionally a whole lot easier to stay in the job, even if you're really unhappy. Emotionally, it can be much easier than to leave, because change can be so discombobulating. So as hard as medicine is, it was a lot easier for me to just listen to my consultant and apply for that job at this hospital and this and that. So I did that and I got the job. However, after I got the job, what happened was the NHS emailed me, the hospital that I was going to be working at, and they basically said, oh, we're really sorry, there's been a typing mistake on the job advert. There's been a typing mistake, and the job that you got is not actually the job that you applied for. Basically, they were changing my job. They had advertised a job for a certain specialty, but they said they couldn't honour that. They were going to give me a different job. Now, bearing in mind, I had a lot going on in my life right now. I was having some health scares, was waiting to have surgery. We had just had the pandemic, so things were all over the place. And I remember just thinking, what? I remember being absolutely, probably a little bit unreasonably, just a little bit unreasonably, but being absolutely livid. I was like, I have just spent all this time trying to make this decision of what is best. I've made the decision. I applied for your job. I jumped through your hoops. And now you're telling me that I'm uprooting my life with my family and friends in South Wales to move to the south of England. And the thing I'm moving for, the job, you're not even going to give me. So I wrote so many emails, guys. I wrote emails. I love an email. Another thing about me, I'm the youngest of 5 in a family of 7. I'm determined. Like, when someone tells me no, like there's no way for us to reach an amicable solution where we're both happy, I'm like, I just don't believe you. I just don't believe you. Let's keep trying. We keep trying. I don't quit. So for me, with this job, I had my friends praying, I had my church praying. I was like, pray for me that they change the job back. I was emailing, I was going up and up and up in terms of who I could complain to about this. I argued my way back into the job I'd originally applied for. I somehow managed to get this hospital trust to create an opening. And who knows, I somehow managed. I said I just prayed. By God's grace. Was it grace, or was it God just letting me have what I asked for? Because goodness me, it was the worst job, the worst medical job I've ever done. But they gave me the job that I'd originally applied for. However, when I first read that read that email from them where they said that they weren't going to give me the job that I'd applied for, I was so upset. I was like, how could the NHS do this to me? How could they do this to me? This is my life. It's my life. I can do what I want. And so in my anger, I went online, I went online and I opened up the acting school website. I signed up, I put in my information, I paid my 30 quid and signed up to audition. I was like, screw it. I'm going to acting school. And that was that. I was like, how dare the NHS mess me around like this? This is my life. I'm taking back control. I'm going to be an actress. I applied to acting school. Meanwhile, I went to bed. I woke up the next morning and I thought, what am I doing? And that's what I meant at the start of this podcast when I said, making the decision to take the leap is an everyday decision. You might decide one day and the next day you have to decide again and again and again. It's a constant thing to make the decision to build your dream life. It's not just a one time, I made the decision and never looked back. Like, it's a repeated thing, because you'll be repeatedly asked by life, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And you have to keep saying what you actually want. Unfortunately for me, I went to bed after applying to acting school, after having this, angry email session, woke up the next day and I just thought, nah, I need that medical job. And so I was praying, I was asking my church, my friends to pray for me, that they changed the job back. But they changed the job back. They gave me the job that I so desperately wanted. And it was really funny because I forgot that I'd applied to acting school, because suddenly I had this job and I was like, oh, I guess I'm still going. And so I was looking for a flat, I was doing all of these different things. And so it was really busy that I actually forgot. And then I started the job. It didn't start off too bad. It was a new job. There was a lot going on. We were making new friends and all of that. And then about 3 weeks in, I get an email from the acting school that I had applied to, inviting me to audition. I had the day off. I was working on A&E at the time. So the audition was on a Tuesday. I had the Tuesday off. So I was like, well, I guess I've paid 30 quid. And so I decided to do the audition. So during the day, I called my sister and we talked through it. She ran lines with me. So I spent the day prepping. And then in the evening, I did the audition. It was a 3-hour Zoom call audition. Now, this is 2021. We were all so over Zoom. Like, I never wanted to have another Zoom call ever in my life. But there I was on this Zoom call doing this acting school audition. And I absolutely loved it. I felt so alive. It wasn't just about enjoying it, because there are lots of things that I enjoy, right? I enjoy painting. I enjoy baking. But this was like, it felt like more than that. It felt like a calling. It felt like this is what I'm meant to be doing. And I didn't even realize this until I told someone how much I enjoyed it. And they're like, you enjoyed what was essentially a 3-hour interview? And I was like, I didn't realize that was unique, that other people wouldn't enjoy that. Like, it was amazing to me. I would have auditioned again. I would have paid to do another audition because I found it that fulfilling and that much fun. And so meanwhile, I'm working this full-time A&E job, and then I get an email from the school saying that I've gotten into the school. They send me my timetable. Bearing in mind, I'm working on A&E at the time, right? An A&E schedule, it changes. Sometimes you'll be on nights, you might be working during the weekend quite a lot, on all these different days. And so what they've done is they sent me a timetable that I have a class on a Monday and a class on a Tuesday and a Saturday, or whatever it was. I'm looking at my rota and it's not really aligning, so I asked them, oh, can I do this class instead, yada yada. And they said, oh, that actually, because you'll be in the same group of people, your classes are on the same time on a Saturday morning every single time, and so you can't just hop and jump around different classes. This is your timetable. You either do it or you defer. And I was thinking about deferring. I was like, but it's going to clash with A&E. And I remember sitting in the living room chatting with my sister and my brother-in-law about it. And I just knew that I had to do it. I just knew. I'd seen enough, and I'd seen enough of myself. I was like, if I defer, if I don't do this now, I never will. I just never will. It's now or never. The sensible thing would have been to do the job that I just spent months arguing for. Lol. The sensible thing would have been to just do that year, do the whole job. But I just decided that I had to go for it, that I'd found something that I loved. I felt called to it and I had to try. And I wasn't going to soothe myself with this, I won't make a decision of, I'll just do it next year, I'll delay it by a year. That's what we do, right? We say, next year, or next year, or next year. We don't live in tomorrow. Tomorrow is always a day away. So I was like, okay, I've just got to go for it. And so when I say I decided to go for it, again, this was a decision I had to make over and over again, because I had to swap an insane amount of shifts. Now, I'm saying this as though I did it by myself. Again, as I said, I'm a Christian. I pray about everything. So I'd be looking at the timetable thinking, how do I get every Saturday morning off for the next 4 months? How do you do that, right? Anyone who's worked on A&E knows that that's pretty much, every Saturday off is pretty much insane. But I would pray about it and I'd be like, oh, actually, this person is working this day. If I swap that, then maybe they'll be willing to swap this and da-da-da. So I would go through the timetable, not just my timetable, you go through everyone's rota, you look at the big rota and you see when someone is working another weekend and you see if you can swap that for them or you find something that might be appealing to them. So I'd message people individually and I managed to do it. I managed to swap every single shift. So I never missed a class. I made a decision that I would never miss a class. There was one class that I missed due to a family issue. That was the only class I missed. And even that one, I was like, why did I miss that? Because I made a commitment to myself. I made a decision that I would never miss a class. And yeah, that's how I ended up starting acting. I'm going to stop talking now because I've been talking for a lot. I wrote down some notes, but I'm pretty sure I've said most of them. Sorry if it's been a bit clippy and a bit all over the place. I really pray that you're able to get something from this, and I pray it's not too harsh. I pray that you receive it with love. I'm going to end the podcast there. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you being here. Please don't forget to leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on all these things that I've said. Please do leave a rating on the podcast. The more people that watch, hopefully, the better I can make it for you, and in the future I can have guests on and things like that. But yeah, please do share this with any family and friends that you think might like it. You can also join me on my Instagram, my YouTube channel and my TikToks. I'm sharing more of my journey as I continue going from being a medical doctor to an actress and all of the stuff that entails. Thank you so much for listening and watching today. I love you so much, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye.